Thanks for joining us this week on Retiring Well. We have a great show packed with information for you this week. First, we're going to dive into who really owns your IRA. Is it you, or is the IRS a silent owner of that? Then we're going to get into Roth IRAs, what they are, and maybe should you have one. The next thing, we're going to get into 3 retirement success questions, things you should be asking yourself as you prepare or head into retirement. And the final thing, we're going to take a little different look on exchange-traded funds and give you a little breakdown about an industry-specific one that's pretty interesting.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
All right, let's talk about who owns your IRA. So for this, let's start with more of a business example, and let's imagine you own this business, and let's say it's worth $500,000, and there you are, you own 70% of this business. Meanwhile, you have a silent partner that owns 30% of the business. And let's fast track down the road here, and let's imagine you built that business from $500,000 upwards to $2 million. Now you own 60% of the business, and meanwhile your silent partner has grown their share upwards to 40%. So when is it that you should be considering maybe buying out that silent partner? So I've done this as a business example, but essentially what I'm describing to you is your IRA or your retirement plan, 401k, 403b, etc. So you're sitting on this retirement asset that essentially hasn't been taxed yet, and so you're facing a major tax impact at some point down the road. So you can't just go and say, hey, you know what, I'd like to cash out of my IRA. Let's use that $500,000 example and say, hey, give me that full $500,000. No, again, that's where the IRS, between your federal and state taxes, if you wanted that lump sum, you're going to have a heavy tax impact. So and the challenge with that you see is the bigger the number gets, the bigger the percentage your silent partner grows. So the good news is you have options. Have you ever potentially considered a Roth conversion? So a Roth conversion is where you take a taxable IRA and you look at converting some or all of it over to a Roth IRA. Now again, that would be a taxable event to transition that money from taxable to tax-free, but it's one that can be done over a period of a number of years. So you don't have to necessarily do it all at once, which typically doesn't make a lot of sense in a number of cases, but it can be done over a period of years. Is this something that you've talked to your financial advisor about? I wouldn't rely necessarily on your accountant to be handling this type of conversation. They're typically looking at just the current year and trying to keep your taxes as low as possible. But it is something you should be sitting down talking with your financial advisor about over the long-term impact of your IRA and how to potentially be exiting that IRA over a period of years. So again, look at your retirement accounts. Treat it like a business. Look at how you can be potentially removing that silent partner from your retirement account over time.
Another great segment there on the co-owners in your IRA. And you know, a lot of people don't realize that they do have that co-owner in their IRA, and that's the IRS, right? And it doesn't stop when someone passes away and you inherit an IRA. The IRS still comes after that money as well. Fortunately, I ran into this scenario just recently where a client had a non-spouse pass away, a loved one, and they inherited that IRA, and they weren't quite familiar with the tax implications of that. And the IRS kind of treats those a little differently. So if it's a non-spouse, you have to deplete that IRA within a 10-year time period. And for this client, it worked out after we did some planning and such that it was in their best interest to deplete this inherited IRA over a 6-year time period. Granted, they had the option, they could take the lump sum, but that would drastically impact their taxes. So in this scenario, it worked out where they were going to stretch this out over 6 years and minimize their tax situation.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of learning. You know, that's what we get to do. We get to lead with education. I got a kind of a funny question for you. Have you ever been in the room with somebody that you just really didn't want to be in that room with? Maybe that's what you might feel, you know, in traditional IRAs, where you have this partner that you want to kick out. You know, recently in the Cadillac office, I was just able to help a client come in. They said, hey, we want to remove that person that's in this account and get them out. And so we were able to actually, even in the 10% bracket, to convert $14,000 and remove that partner from at least that dollar amount. And so, you know, if you have a question where you're like, hey, how would I remove somebody or a part of this account that the ownership isn't yours, you know, give us a call, give us a question. We love figuring out how we can be tax efficient. How do we get you in a position to where you are the sole owner? So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we have 3 success questions and Roth IRAs.
Every success story starts with a plan. The success of your retirement depends on a solid financial plan. If you are nearing retirement or already retired, we invite you to an informative live event to help you plan to retire well. There is no cost and no obligation, and dinner is on us. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial professionals, specializing in retirement planning, serving all of northern Michigan, with offices in Traverse City, Cadillac, Petoskey, and Gaylord. Our presentation includes, is your retirement prepared for inflation? Do you know the true risk of your investments? What happens to your assets when you pass away? Do you have a tax plan? How does your income affect health insurance costs? And much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, March 8th at Lakeside Charlie's in Cadillac, or Thursday, March 10th at the Otsego Grand Event Center in Gaylord. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow, but seating is limited and tends to fill quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. Don't miss this important live event to help you plan to retire well. Call 888-608-5825 today.
I want to talk about the 3 retirement success questions. You know, these are things that you should be asking yourself as you head into retirement or maybe very early on in your retirement. Number 1, sounds simple, but what income do you want or need? I'm amazed as all the times as seeing new people come in and they haven't thought about this yet or have any idea even where to come up with this number. You know, sometimes folks are like, well, I don't know, or I don't even know how to come up with that. Well, 2 things you can kind of do. What are you living on today, and what expenses may go away when you retire, or maybe what expenses may be added when you retire? Or the other way to do it is the dreaded budget. I know most folks don't traditionally live on a budget. Many do, but many don't. But to sit down, work through that, and see what the expenses are going to look like. You got to get to the bottom of knowing what your needs are so you know what kind of income, what kind of lifestyle you're going to have in retirement. Once you know what that income is or the desires that you want, then what sources do you know are going to be coming in? We call that guaranteed forms of income. Social Security is an example. I know there's questions out there if is it really guaranteed, but we have to assume the government is backed by that and that there's going to be some guarantees to having that Social Security. Second, pensions. You know, maybe you're fortunate enough to have a pension from a previous employer, your current employer. What does that look like? And then also, maybe you have an annuity from a previous employer, like an old TIA or something like that, that's going to be spitting out some income for you going down the road. So those are the things we know. All right, so you know what you want, you know the sources that you're going to be coming in. The third question, what do I do with the difference? You know, likely there's going to be some difference there where what you have coming in isn't going to be quite what you want or need doing that. Where do I get that? Well, that's traditionally comes from your retirement savings. So 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, Roth IRAs, all of those different categories out there, or maybe you have like brokerage account, non-qualified account, stuff like that. But those, how do we build that to generate a paycheck for you on a consistent basis to get back to those goals that you have? Because let's face it, in retirement, your income is your lifestyle. That's going to allow you to do the things you want to do and do all those things that you've worked so hard for in your lifetime. You know, oftentimes we lose sight that all this savings, its responsibility is to generate a paycheck. Retirement's like 20 to 30 years of unemployment. You want to make sure you have a plan laid out for your income in those unemployment years, right? So if you don't have an income plan and you haven't thought about these success questions, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about these and hope for you to plan to retire well.
In today's day and age, with a longer lifespan, you're more likely to encounter both good and bad market performance. For that reason, when planning for retirement, it's increasingly important to seek guidance from a financial advisor who can help you structure an income strategy that reflects your financial situation, risk tolerance, and investment objectives. You don't want just any advice, but objective financial advice. With so much at stake, it's important that you feel you can trust a financial advisor to consider a wide variety of possible solutions, including both investment and insurance products. Here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we're not beholden to any certain investment tools or vehicles. We're independent. We can offer a wide variety of investment tools that meet your needs. So please, if you have any questions or you want to schedule an initial consultation, don't hesitate to give us a call at the number on the screen. We're happy to help in any way that we can.
Are you retired or approaching retirement in the next 5 to 10 years? Join the Centennial Wealth Advisory team for an exciting presentation with complimentary gourmet dinner and learn essential financial strategies for a comfortable retirement. Dates and locations to choose from. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Call 888-608-5825.
When it comes to your financial future, what's the value of a truly objective opinion? As someone looking for financial guidance, you have choices. There are thousands of captive financial professionals who work as employees for large national insurance companies and brokerages. There are also many independent financial professionals who aren't bound to any given insurance company, investment strategy, or product. So what's the difference, and why does it really matter to you? Consider this. If you walked into a doctor's office with a sore throat, a bad cough, and a high fever, you'd expect that doctor to assess your symptoms, do a thorough diagnosis, and ultimately hand you a prescription written to cure your particular ailment. In other words, you'd expect the doctor to consider all the medications available and give you his or her absolute best thinking on what's best for you. On the other hand, if that doctor opened the cupboard and only had 3 or 4 prescriptions available, maybe those offered by his or her favorite pharmaceutical rep, most patients would immediately raise an eyebrow, suspicious that they might not be getting what was really in their best interest. The same may be true for your financial well-being. If your financial professional is an employee who's contractually bound to represent a given insurance or investment company, only offering their products while there are literally hundreds of others available, how sure can you be that you're being offered what's truly best for your situation? You don't walk into a tailor or seamstress shop to get clothing off some rack. You go for a custom-tailored fit. And with something as important as your financial future at hand, the stakes are even higher. We believe you deserve a truly objective opinion. We think you deserve to consider more of the available options. And we believe your financial future is worth a custom-tailored prescription to help you feel confident for the days ahead. If you'd like a second opinion on your current retirement strategy, simply contact our office today.
Something we like to talk about regularly here on Retiring Well are Roth IRAs. So what exactly is a Roth IRA? You're taking, in this example, you're taking after-tax dollars that's going into a Roth IRA, a retirement account, that then you delay over a period of years beyond age 59 and a half, and that growth that occurs within the Roth IRA is going to be tax-free when you later, again, after age 59 and a half, look at taking withdrawals from that retirement account. So the benefit of that is going to be, again, that tax-free growth. So Roth IRAs were created back in 1998. They were named after William Roth Jr., a U.S. Senator from Delaware, and so that's where they've been around for a little over 20 years now. So in 2022, the limit for your contribution would be $6,000 if you're under the age of 50, and if you're 50 or older, then it's upwards of $7,000 that you can be contributing while you're working into these Roth IRA accounts. Now, if again, with that, you have to have earned income. So whether that's income, salary, wages, etc., and there's certain income limits that you have to stay under in order to qualify to be able to contribute into these retirement accounts. But again, it's something that's valuable to be building that tax-free part of your overall retirement plan. Now, if you're already retired, no longer working, you don't have that income anymore, there are Roth conversion opportunities. So that's going to be where you have a traditional IRA that hasn't been taxed yet, and you have the desire to transition that taxable IRA over to a tax-free Roth IRA. So with that process, it is a taxable event, and so it's one where, again, not going to be done necessarily all at one time. It could be done over a period of years, but you're going to be transitioning that money from taxable IRA over to tax-free Roth IRA. So I've been with Centennial Wealth Advisory now for 17 years and seen a number of clients take advantage of these Roth conversions and building up those tax-free assets, and seen clients where, you know, when a married couple has that Roth IRA and one spouse passes, leaving that tax-free asset to the surviving spouse, it gives them a little greater flexibility when it comes time to drawing income, knowing that they have a piece of their plan that they can draw from and not have tax implications, as well as then leaving that asset behind to children and grandchildren. Tax-free is another great benefit. So if you're looking at your retirement accounts and not sure about Roth IRAs and what role they might play for you, we'd welcome you to give us a call, and we can sit down and talk further about this.
Hey, welcome back. I hope that you got some value out of those 3 success questions that you need to ask. I was helping a couple out just a couple weeks ago and came into the office, and they put their statements down, and we started getting to know each other, and we were able to identify what their sources of income were. So their scenario, they each had 2 strong pensions, they each had 2 strong Social Security values, and then they had some products, and they were positioned in such a way that they had these variable annuities with income riders. And so as we were going through our meeting, I just kept asking them, hey, what is the purpose of this product? What is the purpose of your position? And as we continued to nail that down, we realized, hey, their contractual lifetime income met the threshold of what they were trying to accomplish. And then we realized that the purpose of the position or the product that they were in really wasn't needed. And so these are things and examples that we come across quite often. If you're sitting and you're wondering what is the purpose of the product or the position that you have, and you're unsure, you're worried about it, give us a call. We'd love to teach you what's out there to help you align that purpose with your position.
Yeah, I mean, great, Jack. And another topic that the guys talked about there was Roth IRAs, right? I know we talk a lot about Roth accounts. They're probably my second favorite account next to HSAs because, I mean, as you know, with HSAs, you get that triple tax benefit. But with Roth accounts, they're awesome as well. But they might not be for everybody, okay? So typically they are, but I've run into a few scenarios recently where companies have been adding a Roth component to their 401ks. And with a recent couple that came in, the gentleman was like, hey, the Roth account is now available in my 401k, let's contribute to it. Well, he's only a couple years away from retirement, and based on where he was at in his tax bracket, it made more sense for him to continue to defer taxes until he actually retired, and then we could convert to Roth at that point when his income was a little bit lower. So it's always great to remember, yes, Roth accounts are awesome, but let's make sure that it works for your situation as well. So stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to talk about ETFs, or exchange traded funds.
If you're retired or approaching retirement in the next 5 to 10 years, this event is for you. Please join us for this informative, no-cost, live event to dive deep into retirement planning. This event is all about you, the challenges you face in retirement, and the information you need to help build the future that you want. There's no pressure to become a client, and our goal is simply to give you valuable information that you can use to make smarter financial decisions. We hope by the time you leave this event, you'll be empowered to make financial decisions that will provide for your future retirement.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
You can have a portfolio, or you can have a plan. You can play it safely, or you can safely plan. You can guess when to take Social Security, or you can make your decision based on detailed analysis. You can hope your savings will last your entire retirement, or you can take action and know. You can let life happen to you, or you can take control. You can go it alone, or you can have an experienced guide ready to walk with you every step of the way. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial planners serving all of Northern Michigan. Offices in Gaylord, Petoskey, Traverse City, and Cadillac. Simply call the number on your screen for a complimentary initial consultation and let us help you plan to retire well.
All right, I want to talk about exchange-traded funds, or ETFs as they're commonly known as. Now, you've heard us talk about these on the show. I know many of you out there has watched the shows for years, and we bring these up as when we're talking about different investment options. I want to take a little turn on this, but it's first, I want to establish the basis here. For those of you that don't know what it is, I want to read basically a definition of an exchange-traded fund. An exchange-traded fund is a type of security that tracks an index, sector, commodity, or other asset, but which it can be purchased or sold on a stock exchange the same way a regular stock can. An ETF can be structured to track anything from the price of an individual commodity to a large and diverse collection of securities. Exchange-traded funds can even be structured to track a specific investment. So as an example, they can be index ETFs. You know, they're like an S&P is an example. It's tracking an index. They can be sector ETFs, commodities, currencies, and there's many different forms of that. I want to pick one just to give you an example here. So before I get into this is not a recommendation. I'm not telling you to buy or not buy this. I'm literally just using this as an example, okay? So I want to use an industry ETF, okay? So I want to pick, just because I thought it was fun, the ETF JETS, J-E-T-S, JETS. I bet you can guess what it's tracking. It's tracking the airline industry. So I want to read you once again the fund summary of what this is trying to do. The investment seeks to track the performance before fees and expenses of the U.S. Global JETS Index. The fund uses a passive management approach to track the performance before fees and expenses of the index. The index is composed of exchange-listed common stocks of U.S. and international passenger airlines, aircraft manufacturers, airports, and terminal service companies. So, you get the idea. Here's an industry ETF. It's tracking the airline industry. And as it states, it's passive. What does that mean? They're putting things in this basket and it's not going to change. So therefore, when I look up, as of today, the top holdings in this are some of your more common airline industries. Delta, American, United, Alaskan. Those are more common, bigger airlines, right? So what is this doing? Let's say you were somebody that was very bullish on that sector, and you didn't want to go out and buy each individual airline stock. What could you do? You could literally buy this one industry exchange traded fund, and it would then give you that as a whole. You can look up online and see what the holdings and the percentages are and all that sort of stuff in there, but it's literally giving you a broad exposure to that industry. Now you have to assume and remember the risk is you're just in that industry if that's the only thing you're investing in. Hopefully that was helpful and gave you a little bit of an inside look of what one example of an exchange traded fund may be.
What a great informative segment there, talking about JETS ETF. Whenever we're talking airlines, I kind of go back to my flight training days. I mean, I love flying. And I actually went to school right here in Traverse City at NMC and did their flight program. And in regards to ETFs, it kind of brings me back to when we were doing instrument rated flying. So learning just to fly on the instruments. We had to put this, we call it an IFR hood on basically our face to limit our vision so we couldn't see outside the airplane. So we had to just primarily focus on the instruments only, because when you're flying through the clouds or you're flying in a storm, you can't see what's going on outside, right? You got to focus on that instruments to make sure that you're flying the right direction and so forth. And you know, when I think of ETFs, you're focusing on a certain segment, right? I know Art was talking about the JETS ETF where it's got those different airline positions. But there's so many different ETF options out there that maybe you want to track the healthcare sector or the finance sector or something like that. Those ETFs can do that for you in a very cost-effective way. But it boils down to what's your goal? What's your plan for these retirement funds?
Yeah, I really appreciate that intro, because I'll take off from there, no pun intended. But seriously, you know, when we hear flying and we hear that kind of adventure about being in the air and what you have to trust and the directions that you have to go, there is a really close overlap to investments. You know, I want to take a moment just to kind of reiterate what we get to do. We get to help people get connected with what they're trying to accomplish. And that starts by becoming educated. What do you have? What do you want? And what's the best flight to get there? You know, we wouldn't have this show if we didn't have you. And so, you know, I want to take a moment to just thank you for being a watcher of the show. You know, if there's something that you come across here where you have a question, you're wondering about what your product or your position is, you know, feel free to give us a call. We love to lead by education. We love to teach first. We love to connect people with what they're trying to accomplish. And just know that there are so many options out there available for you. So hope you enjoyed this week. Come back next week, same time, same place.